How damaging are these whistleblower allegations for Facebook? We did see the stock down yesterday. That was probably more to do with the global outage we saw when it came to the platforms. The stock, though, up today by about 2%. So how damaging do you think?
Well, I think it's the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's going on in social media. We're looking at where AI and algorithms interact with society, and I think that's creating a big scare as to what are they able to do. But I think the revelations, in terms of a lot of the revelations as to what little's being done to help, address civil unrest, what's done in terms of teens, what's being done in terms of any kind of areas that are classified as violent content. That's the scary part. Facebook has a responsibility, and it's a big responsibility because they are the public square for the world, and they're not taking that responsibility serious. And you can tell that based on these actions. But there is a lot of discrediting going on against Francis from Facebook at the moment.
Do you foresee the regulatory noose tightening around Facebook's neck going forward? Because regulation when it comes to big tech, and particularly Facebook, and a number of people raising concerns about what they deem to be practices that perhaps aren't up to scratch, have been something that Facebook's had to deal with for a number of years now. Do investors really care?
Well, you can tell by the stock price, investors don't care. They are the second largest digital ad network, and they are doing quite well. And people do see them continue to do quite well because frankly, investors don't believe that the Congress have any teeth in the regulations coming forward. But if they were serious about regulations, they'd look at a couple of things. One, to make privacy a property right. This personal information and personal data, if that was a property right, then consent would be required and value exchange would be required, meaning that you'd actually have to pay to use people's data. And the second thing would be about data portability. There was a suggestion, an act that was suggested by some Congress people as to whether you could actually take the information, the insights that you have on a social media platform and take it to another social media platform going forward, and that would foster competitive. Just like number portability back in the day when you wanted to switch carriers, you could keep your number. This is a little bit further. You keep your social handle, you keep your metadata, you keep the AI in the background. And I think those two things would address the competitive issue that people are looking for.
Ray, Facebook says that its hard work in safety, research, product integrity is all being mischaracterized here. What do you think we'll see from Congress? Will we have congressional action, if any, as a result of this?
I'm not sure, but there's a lot of appetite on the Hill right now to regulate Facebook, but they're not exactly sure what that regulation looks like. People don't want to regulate freedom of speech. People want to make sure that it's a safe place. But I think it's all in the algorithms. It's all in the data that's important, that's being shared, how that metadata is being used. I think Congress wants to understand how that impacts a suggestion, or that impacts, how it transpires in terms of influencing thought, influencing people's behaviors. And I think that's important. We're in an era where we're going from, consensual technology to mindful technologies, and you're going to see more about that as people talk about that. And I think Facebook has been taking advantage of those algorithms to create behaviors to get people to click on ads, but there's a lot more behind that, and the impact of what that ad means and what that means on people's behavior, their self-esteem, as well as what's going on with special exceptions for VIP players who don't get to follow the rules or are privileged enough not to have to follow the rules that Facebook would apply for enforcement. So I think those things, that consistency of rules, consistent application of those rules, is going to be one of the things that Congress will be looking at.